Hello everyone, here we are again with my top 10 films of 2024. I had to delay it a couple days because I wanted to wait to watch one film which actually has found its way onto this list. There are two films which I have yet to see which I think maybe could have made their way onto the list, those being A Complete Unknown and The Brutalist. I will get there eventually. So without further ado, let's just get into the honorable mentions. The Wild Robot, which to me is the best animated film of the year. Twisters, one of the best popcorn films of the year. I had so much fun with this and it was so much more well made and well crafted than I would have thought. Same with The Fall Guy, which again is yet another brilliant action film from David Leitch, and I really enjoyed the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. Hitman with Glenn Powell and Adria Arjona, so much fun, so witty, knew when to take itself seriously and also knew when to just relax. Always great to see a movie by Richard Linklater. And finally, Furiosa, one of the best and most creative action films we've had in recent memory. George Miller has still got it, and I admire just about everything about this film. So with the honorable mentions out of the way, let us move into the top 10. So Civil War was a film I believe was quite divisive when it first came out because it wasn't politically opinionated, and quite frankly, I didn't care about any of that. I just enjoyed the film for what it was. And to me, what Civil War was a very simple, well done, well executed road trip adventure. I enjoyed the unique point of view, that it was a story about photographers within the Civil War as opposed to a story about the Civil War itself. And I think that unique perspective really gave us some of the year's most interesting moments and scenes, of course, with that iconic Jesse Plemons scene. But the movie in general, I think, is super well made with some incredible performances. And like I said, a very unique point of view into a story and a kind of story which we have seen before. And so I really appreciated Civil War. At number 9 is a film that I think is probably going to be on nobody's list because no one really saw it, and the people that did see it probably didn't like it that much from my understanding. And I know that there was a sequel that got released for like a week and we're never going to get to see again. And there was a third film and a fourth film planned, and that's not happening anymore because it was like a financial flop. But Horizon, Chapter 1, was a film that I absolutely loved. This is a film that to me is really fat, is how I would describe it. In fact, it is morbidly obese as a film. It is so long and so large and so excessive, and it is a 3-hour film that has no reason for being 3 hours and doesn't even know itself why it's 3 hours, and is so on the nose and so cheesy and so unsubtle in all the best ways. I loved the excess of this film. I loved that this is a pure, raw Western. Unlike so many of the muted, more modern Westerns that we get today, this is the kind of stuff that John Ford would have made. Kevin Costner is, I would say, of a different time, and I mean that in a good way. He is making films that people from 20 years ago would enjoy, and as someone who loves those kinds of films, I really gravitated to this. I gravitated to the fact that there are lengthy, drawn-out scenes where people are riding around on horses in amazing locations for no reason. I gravitated to the fact that there are these huge, drawn-out action sequences with guns and horses and explosions, and I gravitated to the fact that the film was not self-aware in its excess. And I do think that in a time where so many films are trying to be as subtle and precise and, as fast as they can be, I like that this was a long, sluggish, blown out, drawn out thing. And I appreciated the huge size and the confidence and almost the arrogance of Horizon. So that is why it is on this list. At number 8 is the complete opposite of that, which is Conclave. This is, to me, the most succinct and precise and tight, lean film of the year. But why I love it is because on paper, Conclave is a film that is effectively an Oscar bait movie. But because of the way it's directed, shot, edited, scored, written, and performed, they do it as if it's an action thriller. And so you have, on one hand, the gravitas and the weight and the emotional drama and heft of your generic Oscar movie. But you also have Edward Berger's energy and the excitement and the intensity and the unpredictability of his directing style. And so that duality, those two things coming together, makes for a really, really unique cinema-going experience. I also love the fact that despite being a religious film and a film about religion, it is never once preachy, and any kind of wisdom that it does impart is extremely universal. And so I always, always, always appreciate a film when it does that. So Queer is at number 7, and I have a very, very interesting relationship with this film because I don't really relate to or identify with anything in this film thematically or in terms of story or characters. I was not really able to understand what the characters were going through or what the film was trying to say. But the reason it's on this list is because I was so fascinated and captivated and enthralled and entranced and all of those positive adjectives by Luca Guadagnino's filmmaking. This guy, to me, what he's able to do on an audio-visual level with this film proves that he's one of the best and most exciting directors working today, and is a director working at the peak of his abilities. Because Guadagnino conjures up images, sounds, moments that have been lasered into my mind, that to this day I am still trying to figure out and to understand. And I think that is the mark of a good artist and the mark of great art, is when you have no idea what the hell is really going on and you don't really understand any of what it's trying to say, but you want to understand anyway, even though you know full well you may never get all of the answers. And that is why, as a filmmaker, I am so fascinated by this film, and I will continue to come back to Queer to learn, to draw from it, and to be inspired by it in anything that I do. At number 6 is The Substance, a film that I have so much admiration for, and in a way I am so proud of The Substance, because Coralie Fargeau, I was a fan of her when she made Revenge, which is one of the most underrated action thrillers of that time, and here she is with her second film, which is so audacious and so bold and again so unsubtle, and that's going to be a running theme with all of the films on this list. But I loved how confident, and again, like Horizon, how arrogant almost it is in its existence. This is a film that is so unapologetically itself, and that translates into every single facet of the movie, from the incredible performances by Margaret Qualley, Demi Moore, and of course Dennis Quaid, who gives a brilliant supporting performance, to the overall design. This is a film that is so over the top and so camp and embraces that and goes for it and sticks the landing, and I could not be happier that it did. At number 5 is Anora, which to me has my personal favorite performance of the year. Now, I should say I think Sean Baker does a fantastic job with the film, but Mikey Madison is the film, and I think the film is Mikey Madison. Anora is her. And if you were to cast anybody else in that role, you would not get this movie. You would not have Anora. And yet, she gives my favorite performance of the year. This is someone who is so unyielding and unrelenting in her approach to the performance and to the character and her devotion to the character. This is someone who has so much energy and is screaming and shouting more in 5 minutes than I have in my entire life. Yeah, I think Anora is the only film I've seen this year where the entire film has been carried by this engine, this unstoppable force, who is also an immovable object of a performer, and I am amazed by Mikey Madison and by Anora. At number 4 is Challengers. Just like every other film so far on this list, this thing is electric. It is so high energy, so much fun, and so much more than what you'd expect from a love triangle tennis movie, effectively. And so much of that is, of course, thanks to the actors, but also the crew and Luca Guadagnino, who once again shows how creative and how outside of the box of a filmmaker he is, breaking so many rules of film grammar to create some of the most iconic moments of the year, which people will steal in their own movies. The way he uses music, the way he uses costumes, the way he edits, the way he shoots things is so unique and so special and so specific. And I think the best compliment that I would give Challengers is that it is so much more fascinating and intricate and fun and energetic and brilliantly crafted than a love triangle tennis film on paper could be or should be. This is a great example of taking what's on the page and elevating it tenfold. At number 3 is the film that I waited for, Nosferatu, and my god, was it worth the wait. This Robert Eggers guy does not miss. I am convinced at this point that he is an Alfred Hitchcock regen, because his understanding of film craft and film language is unlike anything that his peers are capable of, in my opinion. A lot of people are going to love this movie for the huge, big, weird moments, the freaky moments, if you will. But I love this film for all of its subtleties, for the fact that Eggers would hold on to a wide shot for 5 seconds longer than any other filmmaker would, for the fact that he would pan way more meticulously and with way more patience than any other filmmaker would, for the fact that he would set up scares and moments based on the film language that he would establish earlier on in the movie, for the fact that this guy seems to want to make every single scene he shoots the best scene he has ever shot, and someone who I think is never satisfied with his own ambition as a filmmaker, which I really, really admire. And the reason I think that Nosferatu stands out, in this year of great horror films, is because of that attention to detail, is because of that desire to create the best thing possible at every turn. Not only in the performances, which, by the way, Lily Rose Depp, oh my god, her dedication to the role is incredible, and so is everybody else in the movie. But for me, the star of the show is Robert Eggers, this guy who would try his best to create incredible moments in even the smallest scenes, trying to get everything in one shot, using incredible blocking and getting all of the actors and all of the ensemble all in one shot and weave them in and out, instead of having it be a generic, reverse shot moment. Who will light all of his nighttime scenes purely with candlelight because it's fucking awesome. Who will get real rats in, 10,000 of them or whatever, to do a scene instead of using CGI. This is the kind of purity and the kind of love that I want to see more of in films. So Robert Eggers, I am turning up to anything you do, because you, sir, do not miss. At number 2 is that film, I have one on every list that basically either no one has seen or no one would put that high, and that is La Coquina or La Cochina. I love it so much I don't even know how to pronounce it. This thing I got to see at the London Film Festival with my buddy Theo, and the director was there. It was really fun, great experience. And to me, the reason the film is so high is because, just like everything else, the energy, the fire, the heart, the passion, how raw it is, how messy it is as a movie. This is a movie where you will have one scene which is a 20-minute, well-choreographed long take with so many moving parts, and then the next scene is a 15-minute monologue with 4 people in an alleyway, and somehow it works. It is so all over the place in all of the best ways, and clearly wears its heart on its sleeve, and it is unapologetic about being itself as a movie. And so on an artistic level, I really admire that, and I cannot wait to see what this director does next, because clearly he has made something that I think is really, really special. And even if this is not your cup of tea, if you do check it out, which I recommend you do, even if it's not your cup of tea and you don't enjoy it, or you aren't entertained by it or engaged by it, I think at the very least you will find it interesting and intriguing as a film. It also has what I would potentially say is my favorite climax ending finale scene of the year. Yeah, Dune Part 2. I've already spoken about this film at length on my friend Dylan's The Popcorn Podcast season finale episode, link in the description. This was the only film I watched that had my jaw on the floor. It is an epic. It is a timeless cinematic masterpiece. Not only is this film my favorite of the year, but maybe it might be my favorite of the decade so far. This to me is the kind of film that doesn't really get made anymore. It is the kind of film that someone like David Lean, who I think is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, would watch and go, oh my god, that's brilliant. Because in a way, this is the successor to Lawrence of Arabia, which is one of my favorite films. This is the kind of movie where you have all of the world's best artists coming together to exceed their own expectations, to transcend what they believe they were capable of, and create this timeless masterpiece which will go on to inspire the next generation of artists. Dune Part 2 is the film that makes future filmmakers. and that is why it is my favorite film of 2024. So there you have it, guys, my top 10 list of 2024 films. Thank you so much for watching. Please do comment your list down below. I love getting to discuss this with everybody every year. I hope you've had a wonderful 2024 and have an even better and more brilliant 2025, and I cannot wait to continue this film journey with you all going into the next year. Cheers.